Karis, I pulled this up, so I left you a comment, and I wanted to show you what I meant. So I actually think this one's quite nice. The colors are nice, like everything about it is perfectly fine. I have just on a very high level. I think that for what this is, for this assignment, for the scope of this is totally fine. Uh, I want you to at least know or think about that everything that you've done here is what I sort of call assembly graphic design. And so if there's a component of your future career that you see yourself making graphics or doing something kind of in this vein, uh, be cognizant of the fact that everything that you've got here is basically someone else's work that you've put together. Now, I'm not saying that to be a dig about this. It is sort of the natural progression of things. I'm just trying to expose you to an idea that you'll probably get to in your own discovery 10 years from now, right? Maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Uh, I'm just skipping you ahead, right? Because the truth about something like this that you've done here is that it's it's all other people's work that has been assembled, and virtually anybody could do that, including AI. They could hire somebody could hire some intern, and like, I don't know, the psychology student intern could do this in Canva, right? And so if you are going to find yourself in sort of a professional setting where you are a graphics designer or creator, or that you're producing material or content for web pages or social media or whatever it might be in that scope, uh, if you can start thinking about what can I do, what can I, Karis Davis, do that nobody else could necessarily do with simple tools like that, it can make you a little more valuable in your professional career. Okay. It's just something that I've been thinking about the last, I don't know, several years myself, where you do stuff like this and you're like, oh, you know what? Like anybody could sort of do that in Canva. It's like, how do I level up? Right. And so you got to start thinking about those sorts of things. The answer to that would be something like, could you draw your own stuff? Right? Could you draw all this material yourself, for example? But one of the things that I wanted to show you here was um, you have this in here, and I don't know for certain, but I suspect if I look at this, yeah, I think that you did probably that text warp. I think is what you did. It looks like it should be text on a path, but I don't know. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about this, let me know. But since I can't edit it, I can't see the path in here. It makes me think that maybe this was like you did the text box and then you applied that text warp effect. What you could consider doing is if you grab the pen tool, which is a real pain in the butt to learn, and so if you've not done this a lot, watch closely. You want something to sort of flow around this circle here, and one of the ways that you can do that is if you click once, left click, and then you're going to probably want like at least 3 points here, and so you're going to want to do about halfway. You're going to click and hold, do not let go. Drag the cursor, and you'll see that you can sort of get this Bezier curve business. You don't want something out here and you don't want something here. You kind of want to follow the curve of this outside shape about like that, right? You can sort of play around with this, but probably I'm just eyeballing it here very quickly. Something about like that, okay? Then let go. Then click again for the third point and do the same sort of thing. Clicking, holding, dragging to get something kind of like that. Now, it's going to fill this in. It's going to show some colors here based off of whatever your default was. It does not matter, because the next thing that we're going to do, you'll see that I have this shape that if I go to my text tool, and if I hover the text cursor right on the line, you'll see that it's got the I-beam for the text selector, but it also has that wavy line. So here I got a text box around the little I-beam, and here I have the I-beam with the little cursor through it. That means that it's going to be text on the path. And if I just left click once, I get myself a little the L of lorem ipsum, basically. Now, this in and of itself is not particularly helpful. And so if you grab the direct selection tool, this is where this thing gets very stupid. If you grab the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, not the move tool, then you sort of hover your cursor up above here. You get the I-beam with a mystery little arrow. Click and hold, and then you can drag over here like that. Okay, and then you can let go. Then with the move tool, the black one, the black arrow, you can double click in there, and it's a text box like any other text box, and you can say the subtle signs of abuse, something like that. I wrote this, by the way, in all lowercase because this Dunbar low has this weird effect that I think doesn't look very good when you write actual capital letters in there. And so all the text is all caps, but the actual caps gives you this sort of like weirdly different thickness of it. I don't know. It looks ugly to me. I don't like that. There's also Dunbar tall, which is also a useful thing to do. And in fact, if you were to change it to Dunbar tall, you could do something like this. In which case you might need to make the font size a little bit smaller, but you get something like that. Now you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, I don't really need that black thing there. And so you can either just hide or delete the layer. But now, instead of having this sort of, I don't know, this sort of canopy that's just sort of faux bent, you can, you now have something that you can size up like this. If you wanted to, you can also adjust the font size of it. You could leave it just as it is. You could make it larger. If you make it larger, or you want to make it larger, and then you're like, but it cuts off, how do I make it longer? You go back to the direct selection tool and then click on the actual point and then just give it some more, like move them around a little bit and adjust these curves so that way they fit. Okay, and you might have to bend the curves a little bit, and some of this is just eyeballing it like I am here, although I'm doing it very quickly. Something about like that. Something about like that. Yep. The subtle signs of abuse wrapped around there. And then what would I do? I would do the exact same thing down here for this. Not all abuse can be seen, which is true. That's very good. You can hold the Option key and duplicate this, because why reinvent the wheel? Spin this around like this, and then you're like, but Justin, the text is upside down. It's like, yes, it is. Back to your direct selection tool, and if I can grab this, let's see if I can grab this. If I double click in there, grab that, yeah. Here's what you do: double click in there, so that way you highlight the text. Grab the direct selection tool, the white arrow. You're going to have that blue line underneath of it. Put your cursor over here on the left end, so that way you've got that little black arrow that's pointing to the left. Click and hold, drag up, like I'm physically moving my mouse, right? So like if I move it to the right, it makes it shorter. I don't want to do that. I want all of that text in there, but I'm moving it from the, you see that it's sort of at the 7 or 8 o'clock position here. I'm going to move that up. So now it's at like the 1 or 2 o'clock position, just like that. And then I can let go. I can grab the direct selection tool and I can sort of nudge it around a little bit like that. I can click back in there again, double click back in there. Not all abuse can be seen. Now, this one's going to require being a little bit smaller again. I got to play around with sort of the placement of that, but I get something that is the exact same curvature as the one above, and it wraps around that circle a little bit better. You could bump them out a little bit. You could change the font sizes. You can do all sorts of different things in there with that, but that text on a path is going to get you a much tighter control over that, and it's something that most people can't really do very easily in Canva. And so it's one of those things that separates people from sort of an amateur novice into more of a refined professional. Okay, so consider playing around with that text on a path tool.